I spend most of my time viewing what I want from the outside. I comb it over like it's the scene of a crime. The only guilty I find staring back at me in the mirror at night, stuck in place just
right. Good morning, y'all. I hope you are doing well. Let me know that you can hear me, that I'm coming through. Um, you just never know. It's a icy thumbs up. So from Helene and Tom. Good to see you, my friend Tom. I see some familiar faces, some familiar names. So good morning, Monday morning. It was a crazy good week last week. Lots of stuff going on. I had a chance to be at a conference and keynote for 300 plus folks, and then I signed like 300 books for 2 hours. But the cool thing was getting a chance to chat, getting a chance to meet with people, to have an opportunity to chat with them and see what's going on in their lives and the things that they're dealing with and the things um that they're trying to kind of navigate. And they were all entrepreneurs. They all had their own studios and things like that. So it was fun. The interesting thing is, I don't know if y'all heard, so we were in Vegas and my wife and I decided to drive, and we left on Friday morning to drive back. I had a chance. We actually had a chance to go see David Copperfield Thursday night and spend some time with him backstage, which was kind of cool. Um, but the on the drive back, we narrowly missed an overturned big rig with lithium batteries that caught on fire and shut the whole freeway down, the whole highway down for 2 days. So we got caught in it, and I said, turn around, go the other way. We took a 2-hour detour to get home, but we got home. There was a whole lot of people stuck and everything. So at the beginning, Steffi says, if we didn't have to go get breakfast, we'd have missed the whole thing. But we wouldn't have missed the whole thing. We would have been in trouble. 2 hours beats 2 days. It certainly did. In hindsight, we were grateful. So, all right. So here's what I want to do. I want to start off again, like I usually do, with what's going on in the market, what to look at. And I want to show you something else that I look at first. And part of this is me to answer questions. The other part of this is for us to have, the conversations, but also to start opening up a dialogue so you start to see some of the things that I'm looking at in the market, why I'm looking at them, what I'm looking at, and everything, and even some of the resources. And a lot of the resources are, let me make sure that I've got Roadcaster chat. Is my sound coming through on everyone okay? Yep. Okay. Because Missy says she's hearing a little crackling, but it's all set up right. So you start to, and most of the resources I'm looking at are free, so you can do the same type of analysis, the same type of thing. And why I'm doing this is that we're just past the 6-month mark, and I start to look at things a certain way, and I want to just kind of break it down for you. So one of the sites, let me go to this and put do not disturb on so we don't have that issue. And is for us to just look at the market itself. And this happens to be John Hancock's website. It's not a paid, but I get my weekly recap partly from them. I use a couple of sources. This is an easy source that kind of gives me a real quick rundown of what's gone on in the market and what's going on in the market. If we look at just the market, last week we had a really volatile week with our, especially with the tech stocks. Okay, so we had stocks that jumped up, then jumped down. So we saw the volatility that kind of hit. But if you look at the year-to-date column, which is really where I want you to look first, is that we are still 16% up for the year. 7 months into the year, 16% up. If you look at the Dow Jones Industrial, it's 9% up. The S&P 500, the biggest 500 companies, were 15% up. So, I mean, all in all, we are actually in a pretty good kind of shape for the year. And if you were in the market, it's good shape. Now, one of the other things that I look at here is that we have some things coming up this week. And so this is what happens with economic data. And when economic data comes out, I expect some either pre or post volatility, just because people are interpreting things. It's, that kind of thing. So we got the biggest thing that is coming up is on Wednesday, and that's the Federal Reserve. They're having their meetings. This is where they're going to tell the world, are they going to hold interest rates where they're at? Are they going to increase interest rates? Are they going to decrease interest rates? Right now, people believe, and I agree, I don't think they're going to do anything. So our interest rates will stay where they're at in all likelihood, but we will hear about it on Wednesday. But what happens is as we start to get closer and closer to Wednesday, you're either going to see one of two things happen. There's going to be a lot of movement in anticipation, or people stand on the sideline and say, we're just going to sit and wait. Okay. So we have that coming in on Wednesday. The other thing that we have coming in is on Friday. Okay. And Friday is some of our jobs reports. So looking at unemployment and that kind of thing. There's some other data that's going to come in, but those are the two biggest things that I think can move the needle and kind of give us an idea of what might be going on. At the same time, this week we are in what's called earnings season, meaning that a lot of companies are going to be announcing their earnings, and we've had some companies that have already done it: Google, Tesla, and a number of companies that have announced earnings. And if you ever have a chance to do this, if you have a favorite company that you might want to look at, you might want to just sit back and go to their website and go to their shareholder relations page and listen to one of their calls. And the only reason I'm saying this is that what's more important than the earnings, because their earnings is backwards looking. It's saying, here's how we did the last quarter, the last 3 months, which is an indication of where we're going. But more importantly, many companies, what they do is they give what's called guidance, and guidance is what they expect the rest of the year to be like. So if you have a company that says, hey, we expect our growth rates to decline the rest of the year, we will see not only their stock price impacted by it, but we'll see sectors that are led by it. So if you think about NVIDIA, that is in the chip sector, when they start to say things like, hey, we see our growth slowing, then they start to ask, does this also have an impact on Intel and other companies in the sector? But it gives you an opportunity to just start to look at things. There is another way that I want you to understand how to look at this and understand what the sectors are, and that is this. I'm going to go to another site here. And this is the spider site sectors. It's SPDR. These are the ETFs by sector. And what I have the opportunity, what we can do here is I can look at, just like I looked at the overall stock market, I can look at any sector and say, well, how is technology doing? Well, technology is 12.36% up I have it year to date for the year so far. And what this is it's broken down by all of these companies: NVIDIA, NetApp, Tyler, Corning, Fair Isaac, Broadcom. So I can see what's in the sector. But my point is that you get a chance to start to see what parts of the economy are moving or not moving, and you can change it. I can look at one day. Let me see what's happening 5 days. Most of these short terms don't give us a lot of indication of what's going on. I'll look at year to date. I'll look at 1 year and see where we're at. Now you see all sectors over the year are up. So you get a chance, and I'm only doing this because I want you to understand that there's data out there that you can look at and say, hey, what, is energy a good place to invest? Is consumer staples a good place to invest? Uh, you know, and you go, well, I don't even know what's in consumer staples. What do you mean? Oh, it's Costco, it's Walmart, it's Colgate. It's the stuff we need. It's toothpaste, it's toilet paper, it's the stuff we need that is consistent. So you can start to look at how these play out and see, well, what sectors are moving, where are they? How have they been? You can look at like the financials, 22%. Financials are banks and everything over the last year. If I look at 5 years for financials, it's 51%. If I look at 6 months for financials, it's 12%. Year to date, it's 15%. So I get a chance to start getting a feel for what's going on sector by sector. So I do this when I start to look at stocks or when I start to look at investing and portfolio allocation. I try to do this because I want to just kind of level set myself and say, what's gone on in the market? Where are we? Are we at a high? What's the economic data that might be coming out that drives things? Is there anything else that I see in the industries or the sectors? And then I can look at the companies. And so it's a top-down approach, overall economy, the big data, which is S&P 500, the NASDAQ and all that, the sector data. And then if I want to look at companies, I can look at companies. And so the other thing that, just so you know, if you wanted to, these three-letter ticker symbols, you could actually invest in these sectors. You could go in and say, I want to invest in financials, and you'll just buy XLF, okay? As an ETF. And indirectly, you end up holding KKR, Brown & Brown, Progressive, American Express, Citizen Financial, Goldman Sachs. You end up holding. So if you don't want to invest into a specific company, but you like a sector, you invest in the whole sector. So, but I want to, it's not something I usually talk about. It's not something I usually share, but I thought, you know what, let me just kind of throw it at you so you start to see some of the things that I'm looking at. I'm looking at the XLK sector. The tech sector is down a little bit today, but so it starts to, it does start to make sense for long-term investing and giving you a chance to say, oh, if I don't know what's going on in the market, how do I find out? Well, just a couple of websites. John Hancock. You can see the weekly updates, and then the sector site are probably the two that I will look at. And even if you don't understand it fully, the repetitive exposure will get you to start to understand it better each and every time, and go from there. Missy says, which is what you were talking about before. And yeah, so I typically won't invest. I do have single company stock investments, but this is a great jumping off point. And then I'll go to some questions and everything. Is that what I want to see is I want to have what I would call a critical mass to my portfolio. Now, that could be anything. It could be, but I'm going to say it's going to be greater than 250K. Now, here's why. Once I know that this portfolio, the majority of the portfolio is going to be invested in ETFs and in low cost index funds. So I keep and the reason for it is I keep my fees down. Okay. Diversification is up. Okay. I still have liquidity because I can get in and out. Okay. And the risk is down because of the diversification. The majority of my holdings, if I look at, now I won't show you this because I'm opening up my account. But I just want to look at, we should be at positions. So 90% of my holdings is in this. Okay. That means 10% is select stocks. But part of that 90% is also cash in a high yield savings account. So I do what I'm telling you to do. I do have individual stocks, but what I don't want to do is get myself in a situation where one specific stock is the thing that is the lion's share of my portfolio. And some people have done that where I didn't understand this growing up. So my dad had a good friend. I remember his name was Sam, and he was doing a lot of stock market investing. I don't know that he understood it, didn't understand it, but he bought into 20th Century Fox just before Star Wars. So he made a killing in 20th Century Fox because he happened to time it right before Star Wars, the whole Star Wars started to come out, and then all the movies from 20th Century Fox, and he ran it up. Now he started living like it was never going to end. You know, I remember him coming up with a Jag. He was traveling the world. You know, he was, and then Fox dropped, and he lost a lot of it. That's the reason I don't want you putting your future into a single stock. We put it broad-based across an index, an ETF, and other assets. We follow the wealth priority ladder in chapter 12 from the book or from my training. So you do it. Because remember, my idea is unshakable foundation of safety first, growth second. And so I'm always gonna err on the side of conservative and safety before I take growth and do it from that perspective. And so that's how I kind of have looked at it over the years and continue to look at it. And it's what I do with my clients. And then when you have critical mass, and if you want to take a sliver, 2, 3, 5% of your portfolio and say, hey, can I go and invest in a specific company? Absolutely, you can. What we don't do is we just don't bet the farm on it. Okay. And Tom, I got this coming at you right now. That's the website for the sectors. So with that, I want to open up for questions. Those of you that are in the Zoom room, we can, if we need to, we can unmute. Otherwise, type your questions in. We'll go from there. I did get some questions that came in through the hotline, and I want to touch on a few of them, and I know Jason, you are on live with us, so this is kind of cool. Um, you got to Jason had a question, which I love this question and the fact that you're asking about it now. My son is 18, starting college this fall. Any suggestions on the best way to set him up financially with savings and checking accounts? Should we look into a local bank, use an online bank? Any feedback is helpful. Thank you kindly. So love this question, and I love the fact that you're asking it now. Here's my question back. How engaged is your son in having the conversations around money? What I'd love to do with anyone at this age and even younger is to create an environment where I have the opportunity to have conversations that are driven by not just the money, but the values around the money. It's why what I will typically do, what I did with Jeremy is we had four buckets. The four buckets were giving, savings, investing, and living. And not just because I wanted him to allocate, but because I wanted to be able to have a conversation with him around each of them, around the values implicit in each bucket, giving and generosity and giving back and all that, and savings about liquidity and safety and making sure that you're living within your means, and investing about growing something for the future, delayed gratification, and seeing what that can do for us. And then living was really about priorities because they couldn't have everything, and he had to figure out what really mattered, and knowing that I had to work for things, or he had to work for things. And so that's the first thing, is to sit back and say, hey, can we have conversations with him as he's going to college, and not just have him have an endless open credit card or bank account where you keep funneling money in, but in the process we skill him up to be smart. He's 18 years old. Every dollar that we can get him to put away will turn into $107 by the time he's retirement age. Now, he might be looking at it and go, I don't really care about retirement. I'm going to college. Well, it's not really about retirement. It's about peace of mind. It's about ease in your life. And if I have a dollar that's 100 times more valuable than a dollar that I wait till 30 to put away, that's only 20 times a multiple, there's a big difference there. And so what you're doing is, there's two things here. Selfishly, Jason, you, by teaching him this, you will get him to be financially independent and responsible. So he's not coming back and knocking on your door and saying, Dad, I can't survive. Can I move back in with you? And two, you shift him so he becomes completely independent and self-sufficient from a financial standpoint. Now, tactically, what would I do? He's 18. He is no longer a minor in most of the states. So he's got free will. He's got free choice. And when it comes down to his choice with his money, you will not have control of it once you hand it to him. Okay, so that's why the conversations around values and how things are going to go become really, really important. I am one that typically, from a banking standpoint, I typically work through credit unions, primarily because they're community driven. There's low fees or no fees. They are they're more relationship based instead of transactional based. And doing that. Now, depending on where he's going to college, if he's going to college that is not close to you and you need access to the accounts, you may be forced to use some sort of larger bank or institution or online bank to be able to work through. But I think the biggest thing is really more about the money management skills, the debt management skills. So he doesn't look at student loan debt as the easy way out. but he looks at his degree process as an investment in the future, and that investment needs to pay returns. And so I'm not going to spend $100,000 on a degree and go into debt for that. That's going to give me a $20,000 job because I'm never going to be able to get the return on investment on it. And all those are the things that I would actually start to have the conversations around more than anything else before worrying about investing. Now, if he's going to work during his college years and that kind of thing, then there's some other things that I would love for him to do, especially because he's young, just like I was coaching Henry to do. And that is, I'd love to see him open a Roth IRA and start putting money away that's going to be tax-free and grow at 100 times by the time he can get access to it. And it comes out 100% tax-free. He may not understand it, may not want it, but what you're teaching him is delayed gratification and investing for a future and he may see the power of it, not today, but by the time he's 25, 26, and he starts to see it grow, he might go, wait a second, I'm glad you had me do this, Dad. So I hope that helps. If there's more specific questions, I'm more than happy to chat about it. So definitely. Got a couple of other questions. Let me, Arhan, go ahead and unmute. Let's go to your question first, and I'll come back to the list of questions. Hello, how are you? I'm doing well. Well, so the short answer is yes. The longer answer is this. We do not pay tax on growth and investment unless the investment is actually sold. So there's a difference between what's called a realized gain or loss and an unrealized gain or loss. So if I'm holding VOO, an S&P 500 ETF, and I bought it at $100 and it's at $120, if I don't sell it, I don't get taxed on the $20. Okay. It's only when I sell it that I have the tax, which means that you have the capacity to decide. And this is something that as you start to utilize your assets, you actually will be in a constant state of management, is the tax impact of the choices you're making, because you're not going to be able to just sell assets without a tax impact. Okay. Unless when you sell the assets, they're inside a tax advantaged account. Or for instance, if I had VOO in a Roth IRA and it went from $100 to $500, and I sold it while it was in the Roth IRA, and then I took the $500 out of the Roth, I don't pay tax on it because of the Roth vehicle. So it's different depending on how it's held. But the short answer is absolutely. You will have to manage your taxes based upon how you're using your investment and your portfolio and the income coming out. And it could be ordinary income tax. It could be capital gains tax. It could be non-taxable, depending on what it is. Now, let me say something else. There can be, when you hold index funds or ETFs, there can be a tax impact that you don't even know about. Because, and what'll happen is, we're in July. So in October, November, my team will go to the managers or go to each of the funds. And because here's what's going to happen during the year and towards the end of the year, a lot of these funds will do what's called rebalancing. When they rebalance, they are actually the ones selling the assets. If we have a fund that holds a couple of companies in it and they sell one company to buy another company, there's a gain or loss on that. That gain or loss will be passed through to you, and you will end up paying tax on it. Back in 2022, there was huge gains and losses in mutual funds that got passed on to people, and they got blindsided by this tax that needed to get paid. And so there is an impact of tax that could be from them simply rebalancing the portfolio and readjusting and buying and selling the companies that they have inside the fund, or outside if you buy and sell. So the short answer is, yep, there is a tax impact. And we need to manage it, and we need to manage both levels. And the only way to do it is to make sure that you're on top of it. Like I said, October, November, we will look at everything that we have and start saying, are we going to get hit with a phantom tax because they bought and sold, or they're buying and selling and rebalancing at the end of the year? And they know, they can tell you that they have this embedded capital gains tax that they anticipate triggering, so you can find out about it before they do it, and you can move, you can do some things to minimize it. But that takes planning. This is where, so a lot of people say, oh, you don't need advisors because they just take a fee and it costs a lot. This is where they earn some of their keep, because buying an ETF or an index fund, you don't really need them to do that. But when you start to go into this deeper analysis and everything, that's where they start to help, because I'll literally throw it to my team and just say, tell me what the numbers are on each of these things. Let's figure this out. And now we're planning to minimize the tax impact as we're going towards the end of the year. We don't wait till the year's over, because then the cat's out of the bag. I can't fix it. So we start to minimize the tax impact, and I will start tax planning in October. I mean, I'm doing it all along, but we start to really dive deep in October. There's something called the 3-bucket strategy when we start to look at this, and you will have, when you build your portfolio, you will have things like that are tax free. That's okay. That's okay. This is your kind of your Roth money that you can pull out tax free. You'll have your regular brokerage, which is taxable. Anything you do in that account is going to be taxable. And then you'll have your deferred, meaning that this is your IRA and other things that when you take it out, you'll pay a tax. And what's going to happen, what typically you want to do is, as you start to get close to using your money or needing the money, is you play around with these 3 buckets to minimize your tax and to maximize your returns. This is where the planning comes in. This is where the power of that work comes in, and why it's so important to, when you start to get to these places, to start making sure that you are making the right decisions and having the right people to start digging in and saying, does it make sense to pull from here this year? Or should we just use this? Or let me pull tax free? So the short answer is yes, it will have a tax impact. But then the other thing that I think is really important for us to do is, I don't ever want us to make a financial decision for tax reasons only. If the reason we are making an investing decision is for tax reasons only, then and the tax is the issue, then we shouldn't be making that decision. There are people that will try to sell an investment because it is a tax shield, meaning that the only return is the tax benefit. I don't make decisions based on taxes only. I will consider it, but I remember when I first got into, so when I left my big firm and then I came to the small local firm that I ultimately became managing partner of. At the time, we had a bunch of clients that went into some oil and gas deals as investments, these syndicated partnerships. And when they went into them, they got these huge tax deductions for depletion and things like that. So they took these huge tax deductions and they saved a ton on taxes. Well, the IRS came back in, litigated it, and it all got disallowed. But it got disallowed by the time it was done 8 years later. Okay? So 8 years later, it got disallowed. And now these people, all those tax deductions got eliminated, and they had to pay all the back tax, they had to pay the interest, and they had to pay the penalties. It was astronomical. And so what I don't want to do is make a decision based on a tax structure that we think would work and then have the tax structure go away. I want to make sure that the investing decision stands on its own, and if there's a tax benefit to it, great. But I'm not going to just invest for the tax benefit only. Okay? Yep. Let's see. I would like to ask if there's a chance I could get a recording of me. About the recording of me, this will stay live on YouTube, so you will have access to it on YouTube. I don't take them down. At some point, we'll take them down, but I want to give people access to listen to the conversation. So we're right now live streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and then Zoom. Zoom is so I can have conversations with you because I like seeing your faces. Because the rest of the platforms, I don't know who it is, and I can't see them and everything. But I do leave them up for now, and at some point they'll be pulled down, but you'll have access to it. So I'm not sure who this is because it says iPhone. It just says iPhone 3 for me. So, all right. Other questions that have come up. I'm going to look at this one and then, all right. This is a question that came in. Recently divorced. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not. It depends on whether, 45-year-old mom of two amazing girls, 13 and 10. This is your biggest job. Is you've got basically two teenage girls. This is the most important job you got. When I was married, I took care of our kids and home. My ex-husband handled the finances. It's embarrassing to admit, but I feel so far behind and I don't know where to start. Retirement savings, debt, college savings for the kids. I love this question, and I'm not gonna, because she hasn't let me say her name. I'm not gonna give her name, but I love this question. I'm sorry you're in this situation, but I want to make sure that I put some things that, because a lot of us feel this way, where we start to look at, thank you, Robert, from Guatemala City. Yes, you'll be able to get the recordings. So there's a lot of times we can feel behind. In fact, and I'm going to pick on him just because he's a friend. Tom is online because him and I have had this conversation. He says, God, I wish I would have started earlier. And it's a valid point. It's a valid conversation to have. I wish I started earlier. But we didn't. And for whatever reason, we didn't. We didn't think we understood it. We didn't think we needed to. We thought it was too complicated. But none of that matters. The fact is that for some reason we had to go to where we are to get to where we are so we can move forward more empowered. And so what I don't want us to do is to spend a lot of time with which would-haves, could-haves, and should-haves and saying, gosh, I'm embarrassed. I feel like I'm way behind. You're where you're at. No judgment. Could you be further ahead? Certainly. All of us could. But we're not. But that's okay. So the real question is, where am I? What are my priorities? And what can I do today? And I think that there's a couple of different levels that I would focus on here. And the first is to start to be really clear. Be really clear of what's the priorities. And with her, she's got a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old. They're her priorities. There's no other way to put it. They're her priorities. What do they need? Now, that doesn't mean college education and fund the college and all that stuff. We'll get to that in a moment. And the key is this, is that what do they need to give them a stable journey from here on out? So your priorities are going to be this. But in order to fulfill these, the second priority then is going to be money management skills. So it's not about investing. It's about, what am I doing with the money? Do I have a plan? Call it a budget, whatever you want to do. But am I allocating the money, that's coming in a way that allows me to take care of the plan, the vision for what it is? And so if not, then this is the first place to go, because now we can start asking ourselves, is what skills and knowledge do I need? And how can I also give it to the girls, give it to the kids at the same time? Okay. So notice that none of this has anything to do with money. It has to do with creating a solid foundation so we can make decisions around the money. Then from there's some tactical things that I'll tell you I think you need to do. And I don't know your situation. I don't know all the circumstances, but I'm going to answer it more generically. And I will always fall back to the wealth priority ladder, which is described in chapter 12 in the book. And the first thing is, remember, a solid foundation. So do we have liquidity if something happens? You are now, because of the divorce, you may be getting child support and you may be getting spousal support. I don't know. But child support will end at some point. Spousal support will likely end at some point. So I want you to look at it and say, how can I be self-sustaining and not dependent on that? Because when it goes away, then I have a problem. I want you to be self-sustaining without it. And as it comes in, then it kind of sweetens the pot. And so if that's the case, what I want to make sure is that you have liquidity in place to sustain yourself for any kind of downturns, any kind of problems, because you now are the sole income earner for the family of three that you have right now. And so the first place I would do is make sure that I've got a solid plan in place where I'm putting money into a high yield savings account. I am not going into destructive debt of consumer debt on credit cards to sustain or live a lifestyle that I can't carry. Okay. So that's the number one priority, because that will keep you out of the ditch. It'll keep you out of trouble. Then from there, if I have the liquidity and I'm not going into debt and I'm living within my means and I have that handled, now we start to turn to your 45 years old. You've got a couple decades of investing ahead of you. You know me, and I say this in the wealth priority ladder, I would focus on your financial security before your children's. Meaning that I would start putting money into your retirement and your future, because That's coming no matter what. And the only options you have to pay for your financial future is yourself, government handouts, or your kids. Government handouts and your kids, take them off the table. They are not good. So it's yourself. Okay. So that means that I want to take care of that need first. That also means that I got a 10-year-old and I have a 13-year-old. One has 5 years, one has 8 years before they may go off to college. Now's the time to start having these conversations around money, around responsibility, around if you want to go to a specific school, you need to engage. You need to be involved in this. You need to participate. That means that you have to get the grades, that you could potentially get the scholarships, that there might be work programs, that there may be other things, but they're going to do it smart. They're not going to sit back and let mom take care of it all, that they have to participate in the journey. And if they don't want to participate, then they're ending up at a community college. And it's not bad. I went to community college. I'm doing okay. And then I went to a state school. Okay. And so I think that this is where I would start to look at it is that if I don't have a cash cushion right now, that's the first place. If I have destructive debt in the form of credit cards and consumables on credit cards, that's a priority. If I am living beyond my means, in other words, I'm digging a hole deeper each month and I have to go into debt, those are your priorities first. Make sure that that isn't happening. Once that's happening, take care of your stuff before you take care of the kids' college, but start educating them now. Follow the process in the book. Follow the process of the wealth priority ladder. It will actually help you. It's the recipe that tells you when and what to do one step at a time. So if you have more questions on this, hit me up and we'll go deeper. Okay. I see another question that came in. The basic question on money and is when growing or starting a business, what do you focus on throughout? Before I got ill, I would focus on delivering the best product possible, but I wasn't running the company, so the money wasn't mine. If I don't for the answer, I is because okay. So when you're first starting out, when you're first starting a business, the first thing is, and I actually have an episode that I walk through this. It's more about quitting your job, but the process is the same. There's a difference between being committed and being reckless. I'm not burning the ships. We're going to test the product. We're going to test the market. We're going to test everything to make sure that we have the highest probability of success. The majority of businesses do not last more than 10 years. In fact, they last less than that. So what I want to do is focus on that. Now, at the beginning, cash is tight. You're bootstrapping. Do not take on debt. The more debt you take on at the beginning of a business, the lower the probability of success. It's been shown. The data shows that. I know that there's people out there that say, oh, use other people's money. The stress on your finances, the stress on your psyche can bury a business when the odds are that a lot of businesses don't work out. Now, why don't they work out? I think they don't work out is because we go into them haphazardly, without a plan, non-strategically, and not with a deliberate effort. So I want to make sure you have a plan in place, not some big fancy business plan that you put up on a shelf, but an actual strategic execution plan. What am I doing? Who am I serving? What's the problem I'm solving? Are they willing to buy it? And have I proven the concept? If I've proven the concept, now I can then start looking at things like scale. Do I need team members? Do I need other things? But I need to start to focus on that and preserve the cash and not go into debt. Those are the first things that I would do. Okay. What is your opinion? John Allen asks. on a deferred sales trust as a tax planning mechanism when exiting a business? Um, this is a very nuanced answer, uh, and uh, and so here's how I. It is a possibility to use this to for tax planning purposes. There's pros, there's cons around it. It depends on the situation. You have the opportunity to use it to reduce taxes. I think it's something that you should look at when you're looking at selling a business. Um, does it apply for everyone? No. Does it make sense for everyone? No. I don't know your situation, but it it can be a costly thing to put in place. There are some eligibility requirements that you have to satisfy to make it work, and um, and there's some other risks associated with it, and everything. And so those kinds of things all have to come into play. Don't allow just the tax element of deferring the tax or changing the tax structure of a sale mm, be the only thing that's driving it. Okay, because there's a lot of ways to structure a sale of a company that can reduce tax structure. You can sell to an ESOP. We can do other things, but I've seen it used. We don't use it a lot. So I don't know that I answered your question, but I think it's something that's worthwhile to look at. Um, but it doesn't apply in all cases, John. Cool. Other questions? Anyone else? Let me just see. Now, I know Jason had another question, and unfortunately, I may not have a great answer for him. Halfway through the book, 53 years old, um, seriously planning for retirement. Good, 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 good. Financial planners recently looking at options for long-term healthcare insurance. Unfortunately, due to pre-existing health conditions, could not find any companies would offer policy. Um, do I have any advice? Depending on the pre-existing condition, I don't know. Did your financial planner work with an agent specifically that does looks at all the long-term care carriers out there? Um, because because there are a lot of carriers. It's just a matter of the price you're going to pay to get it, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. Now, I will tell you, long-term care is expensive. My mother has been in a she's been in an assisted living facility for over 6 years now. She's been on dialysis for over 6 years. She was just unfortunately uh, she was just in the hospital. Just came out of the hospital this past week. Um, and she's over 90 years old. So each day is a gift, and every time the phone rings, we worry. But I can tell you that the cost of having her where she's at is north of $15,000 a month. It's astronomical. So you're looking at $180,000 plus a year. Um, and without now we have a long-term care policy for her that we got, but it covers a fraction of it. It was a policy that pays for 3 or 4 years, and it's only like 3,000 a month or 4,000 a month. So if it's a fraction of it, look, it helps. My point is that if you're not considering long-term care and you end up with a long-term illness, it can be costly if you want good care. Um, there were facilities that we looked at for her, and I would not put my enemy in them. And so we've got her in a place that's a nice place that takes care of her. But so I don't have a direct answer for you, Jason, other than if your financial planner has not worked with an agent or a broker that specializes in long-term care, I would get with them and find a long-term care agency that isn't representing one company, but that can go out to all companies and try to get a pricing model for you that makes sense to see if it's something that's possible. And I don't know and not get into your pre-existing conditions. You're 53, you know, if like, let's just talk about me, for instance. I had the cancer and diagnosed in 2019, came back in 2020. I've been free and clear since May of 2020. I go back in this Friday, actually, in 4 days for my next scope and scan, assuming it's clear, send good vibes my way. That's 4.25 years. So I have not looked at long-term care insurance now, partly because I don't think we will, because I can self-insure because of the money machine. And at some point, we don't you don't need life insurance, you don't need long-term care insurance because you can self-insure if you've built the money machine correctly. But we still might look at it, but I don't, even if I wanted life insurance, I think I'm at that stage because like I'll be 63 in a month. And, they say, okay, you got to be cancer free for 5 years. So that means it's next year. So I'll be 64. So at that point, they're going to look at me and go, well, yes, you're insurable, but now you're too damn old. It's like, and so I don't want to be beholden or dependent on it. But I think that you're relatively young, early 50s. Is it something that pre-existing condition can dissipate, the impact of it dissipates in, say, another 2 years at 55, and you relook at it then and see what might be able to play. Okay. So thank you. Fifi says you still need life insurance. Depends what you're saying life insurance is for. Life insurance is meant to replace the income that you bring in for purposes of, and I've done a whole episode that I've recorded on this. Life insurance is not meant to make your heirs wealthy. It's meant to keep those that are dependent on you, to allow them to sustain themselves and to take care of themselves if you, God forbid, are gone. It's there to eliminate debt, to take care of potential taxes, and to do things to make sure that they are okay because they were dependent on you. At some point, if you have enough assets, life insurance really doesn't matter. So I have a life insurance policy that will terminate next month. We won't renew it. We don't need it. Okay. So now I don't think everyone needs life insurance. Now, are there stages in life that life insurance matter? Yeah, absolutely. Like I look at my son and his wife. They've got 2 young kids, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. They have 4 homes. They have a decent sized net worth. But they're both earning income. They need life insurance. There's 2 young kids dependent on them. You've got homes with debt on it. You have a longer journey. They need life insurance. They have life insurance and they have it in place properly in a way that will sustain them and allow them to do the things that they need to do if, God forbid, something happens. And if, God forbid, something happens to both of them, we have a way to make sure that the kids are taken care of and do that. So there are things that will shift and change that will get you to sit back and say life insurance makes sense, but I don't think it's a given for everyone. And life insurance, again, is not about, Jeremy was never going to be rich from life insurance. He was going to be rich from something else. Yeah, indexed universal life. Yeah, you can say it's a tax shelter, but no, I don't buy into it. Anytime you're going to, and I don't know if you sell insurance or not, but I'm not going to get into that discussion. But my opinion is, if you want life insurance, you buy term insurance. You do not wrap up investments into an insurance policy with high fees, high commissions, and all that stuff. We can make better decisions from an investment standpoint. And again, if I'm going to focus on tax shelters as the reason that I'm going to go into some financial investment, it's not the game that we want to play. At least, yeah, I mean, you're welcome to do it. It's just not something that I would say to do. Cool. Oh, you got it, Jason. Always here. Tom, great to see you, my friend. Let's definitely talk. All right, y'all. Any other questions before we move on to the day? What is your oh no. I did that. All right, I answered that question. John Allen, I answered the question already. Yep. Kristen, thank you so much. Cool. Thank you, thank you. All will go well. All right, so here's the deal. I think I have one scheduled again for next week. John, I will. I'll connect you with the video so you can just so you can go back to the answer on it. Okay. Oh my God! It took you, Risa. It took you that long to get the book. So sorry. If you haven't got my book, go grab my book. All right. It's here. YourMoneyMachineBook.com. Also, I have a new free workshop that I'm doing if you want to talk about wealth building and all that stuff. So it's called Effortless Wealth. Just go to effortlesswealthworkshop.com. It's free and get a chance to do it. All right, y'all. Cool. Until we get a chance to see each other next week, you guys keep crushing it. Have an amazing week. If questions come up, pop them in as did Jason and everything, and let's get them answered. Let's keep. Remember, I'm not here to sell you investments. I'm not here to sell you anything but your dreams. I'm not here to sell you insurance. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm here to give you frank, unbiased opinions and answers from my background and expertise. All right. Thank you all, and thanks for the good vibes. We expect it all to go well. Yo, talk soon. Cheers.